You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings Podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
Could it really be January already? Almost February? Could we really have talked to the Lloyd Kaufman last week? Could all these amazing things have happened over here at Horror Ramblings? I think so.
I think so.
It's scary, almost.
Mm-hmm.
How
Terrifying.
far we've come. Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Not as terrifying as Art the Clown from Terrifier, but pretty damn terrifying. You know, it's great to be here. You guys are listening to the Horror Rambling Podcast with this crazy guy here, Lester, and of course, our equally, if not more insane, co-host, Stephen White.
I had to try to amp up for the insanity that you were trying to make me out to be.
We're both crazy, but I think we're that hidden crazy. It's kind of like in plain sight how Hannibal Lecter could lure you in with sweet dinner and great conversation, and then, eat your kidney with some fava beans.
Sure.
But it's great. We're in season 2 now.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a pretty crazy first season. We had some ups and downs, I think.
Yeah.
Some episodes were big hits, I think. Other episodes, not so much. I would love if the fans communicate more this season.
Sure.
That's my big thing. But, all good, all bad. Things
It helps to know what's working. That's what I think, and that's why I'm always pushing for listeners to it doesn't have to be some long tirade, just a little like, hey, I really like what you did here, or I really like when you talk about this, or, just give us ideas of what piques your interest versus the things that we do that maybe don't pique your interest as much. You're just like, I don't really care.
Yeah, I mean...
So, it gives us ideas.
Yeah, I mean, if the fans want you to do a Christopher Walken impression and talk about movies for an hour, I don't know how you'll feel at the end of that, but we'll make it work.
We'll make it work. Who knows? Because horror is scary. When you watch a movie and people are dying, who knows what happens? Death. Dinosaurs used to be real. Now they're dead. That's a horror movie.
We're next, people. But that's what I'm talking about, guys. Fill us in, let us know what you like. But before we hop into the subject today, which I kind of just randomly came up with the other day out of thin air, which is great. That means my brain's not broken. Anything new with you that you would like to discuss? Any news as far as projects or anything like that?
Let's see. I did have a few bits of horror news that I did want to touch on. I don't know if there's anything big that I want to touch on. I guess I will say that if you're unaware, if you're a listener and somehow you missed any tweets that we touched on, the episode that we mentioned, our opener for the season with Lloyd, if you wanted to see a very special video version of that episode, it's only on Patreon, only costs you $1 singular, and it's completely unedited in the sense of I didn't edit it for, audio purposes or whatnot. It's the full video of our conversation, and I even kind of put it within our little eye graphic. But you get to see our lovely faces. You get to see Lloyd's lovely face, and just everything that happened that night that we chatted. So I highly recommend it if you want to check it out. Like I said, it only costs you $1 at very, very least. And I'm not going to try to rob anybody of any hard-earned cash for that. So.
And I just got to say, just real quick, seeing Lloyd talk, like hearing him talk is one thing, but seeing him talk, his expressions and everything, like... To me, that's priceless because he was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So.
He was hard to keep up with, I felt like, because me personally, I like to have questions written down and just so I at least have a plan to have a conversation, but I also don't want to just go off the questions and you want to try to keep up with the conversation, so you want to just make it flow naturally. And man, he was all over the place sometimes, and it was just, I was trying to stay with him And like I said, we barely got to any of the questions that I really wanted to ask him about. But I mean, it was fine. I went with the conversation, and that's all we could do.
And I will give him credit all day. I hope, because he had just celebrated his birthday, which I wanted to say happy belated birthday to him, and I completely forgot to. But
Yeah.
77, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So if I can be as quick as he is and everything at 77, kudos, because
yeah.
man, I'll give him credit all day there. He was phenomenal. But
Yeah. Sharp-witted.
right, and
But yeah, just anybody wants to go check that out, it's over there. So by all means, links are down below as usual. Patreon.com/pencilpaperproductions if you want to do that. Plus some other content that I've been working on too. I don't know if anybody else. I don't think I've ever mentioned it here. I think I mentioned it on Super Mega Crash. I'll mention it just for cross promotion purposes. There's a third podcast that I do. And, you know, it's insane that I'm even doing 3. But this one's a little easier for me to kind of plan ahead for. And that's one that I've done with my wife. It's called Inspired by a Weeaboo, where she introduces me to anime that she's very fond of. And we actually started it back in 2018. And it was kind of an interim podcast while we were on break with Super Mega Crash to kind of introduce it. And then we just kind of hit a wall with it because time and whatnot. And finally got it relaunched. It's back up. And this entire year, okay, follow that. The entire year is set to go. And we're going to be watching Full Metal Alchemist, which is an anime she is very, very fond of. Loves it to death. Wanted me to see it. Took us forever to even find a way to watch it because she swore up and down it was on Netflix, and then suddenly it was no longer there. So we had to purchase it, and that was not cheap. So I just said, here's another Christmas present for you. But we're going to be watching that all year, and that comes out every Wednesday. So if you're into anime, you want to check that out over there. And on Patreon, what I'm trying to do over there is the episodes, you can catch them early. I'm thinking about, just as I get them done, just going ahead and putting them all up. So if you want to binge them, you can, because they're not very long. They're probably about 20 to 30 minutes. So if you want to go check that out, it's an easy breezy podcast, just conversations about the episode, and then we just kind of dissect a few things here and there. The season we did before, I did not understand this show called Fooly Cooly. I still to this, I wanted to. I was trying to understand it, and I just don't. I still don't. But I think it's one of those you've just got to watch again and again and be like, okay, I'm finally starting to understand it. But no, I highly recommend it if you're into anime, so go check that out. So news stuff. I know we don't normally do this, but I saw a few headlines that have been making the rounds, and I thought they'd be worth chatting about real quick. First of all, this actor is, I feel like he's well known in horror communities, is Julian Sands, probably best known for Warlock, and he's apparently missing. He was a hiker that was reported missing, and I guess no one threw out his name, and now it's officially known that he is the missing hiker in California. No one knows where he's at, and family is concerned that the outcome is not going to be good. So I'm hating that we're even having to just wait until we get confirmation of bad news. And I hope that we hear something good, but I don't know, the longer it goes on, the chances are looking slimmer. So I hate that this has happened, and you know, if whether or not you've seen him in Warlock or not, I mean, he's been around. You know, he's done other shows and movies and stuff like that, and I've always liked him as an actor. I thought he was very talented. Just kind of got shoehorned into that Warlock series, which, you know, it's not a bad hole to be in. I guess they're interesting movies, but no, thoughts and well wishes to go out to his family, because I know that they want answers, they want confirmation, and just the waiting has probably got to be terrible. So hate to hear that, and it's terrible. So just think about it. Hopefully we'll get good news, but right now it's not looking all that good. So sorry to bring down the room. Another thing too, since and I wanted to kind of lump these together because I thought this was an interesting In fact, you know what? We'll come back around to that because let's touch on the other one because I feel like that bit will probably have a little bit more to say. So the Winnie the Pooh horror movie, Blood and Honey, that we've heard about.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard this or not, but one of the actresses in the film says that the cast have received death threats.
I did see that.
For the movie. And don't do that, people. This is just fiction. It's fiction. It's not doing anything to your childhood because that's the bullshit that we keep hearing is that, oh, you're ruining my childhood. You're ruining my... No one's ruining shit. You know? It's just a movie taking a spin on this material. You don't have to watch it. Right. I mean, the Walt Disney stuff still exists. Other versions still exist. Don't watch it. Do not watch it. You have an option. You have a choice not to watch this, so don't do it. If it bothers you that much. I do not understand this for the life of me. I think it's just in general, because I'm even seeing this stew, man, where just every time I see these headlines, whether it be on a clickbait article or even just YouTube videos, we're just like, my thoughts about this thing. I know we have our thoughts, sure. But when it comes off hateful, I think those are the ones that bother me the most. You don't have to like a thing, but when you're immediately going to hatred, like if the name of your video is why this thing sucked, I'm out, you know, because that's your opinion. There are tons of people out there who think that something is golden for whatever reason. So I'm already done with your article or your opinion the moment you say it sucked. You know, I like to give people a benefit of the doubt when it comes to what you like and dislike. Well, I'm sure we would agree or disagree on certain things, you know?
Oh, I'm sure. And we have before. I mean, even going back to earlier episodes with movies that everybody seems to love that we just did not like.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a couple movies that at the time that I watched them, they weren't for me, and I've never gotten over that hump.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about that, and, you know, there are movies that you love, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to talk trash about them, you know?
No.
And I have to say something real quick. There is one little complaint I have about the new Winnie the Pooh movie.
Okay.
Tigger's not going to be in it.
Yeah, see, that's a letdown.
The reason Tigger didn't get introduced until a little later on, so he's still like really protected under copyright and everything else. So they're like, they can't use him, and somebody was like, yeah, so you're not going to see Tigger bouncing around gutting people, and I'm like, you just put that image in my head, and now I want to see it, and I can't see it, which kind of, you know, but, you know, I don't know if you've seen what's going on over there at Warner Brothers right now, but
oh yeah,
they've had to sell, like they sold a huge music catalog of theirs. They're trying to get help with all of their superhero movies.
Mm-hmm.
They're afraid.
That alone has been drama that I have just been so tired of.
They're afraid that Disney is going to buy them out, and part of me is a little worried about that because I don't know what's going to happen with certain characters because Warner Brothers owns certain characters. You know, I don't think we'll ever have a Freddy Krueger Disney princess, so I don't think we have to worry about that. But at the same time, like, I do worry a little bit about that happening because Disney's just so massive and they try to pump out content so quickly, and sometimes their content is just lacking because they're trying to pump it out so fast.
Yeah.
I will give them credit. I will give them credit. They are going to leave Deadpool alone. They're going to leave certain characters the way that they are. They're going to let there be rated R movies. It's just Disney won't put their stamp right out in the open on it where you can see it right out there, which I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable with that aspect of things, but yeah.
I think, and I would hope this would be the case if Disney ever, because I've heard that rumor too, that there's that possibility that they're circling the waters and considering it or thinking about it. And one part of me would love aspects of that because you start thinking about just Marvel and DC in general. So we could finally see Marvel versus DC movies and content, and oh boy, would that be amazing, because I love comics that I've seen where you get to see these characters cross over, and wouldn't that be amazing to see that in film? But we're talking about a very massive company that has so much content, like Looney Tunes and, you know, DC and Adult Swim and Cartoon Network, all the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, Tom and Jerry, I mean, list goes on and on and on. I mean, they've got so much. So I would hope that if Disney ever considered it, that maybe the government would step in and just say, hey, this is kind of violating some antitrust laws, that maybe this is not exactly the kind of merger we're settling on, because I've actually seen that kind of bouncing over to my other thing that I know is video games. We actually got to see Congress step in on a merger between two video game companies where Microsoft was trying to acquire Activision Blizzard, which is a big piece of shit company. Don't even get me started on them. If you want to hear my rants on that, you can go over there. But they stepped in and said, no, I don't think this needs to happen, and I'm kind of okay with that. So if someone was to want to buy Warner Brothers and acquire them, I would hope it would be a company that would maybe help kind of combine forces, and they would unite in a way that would help both companies. So maybe a smaller studio would merge with them, and then it's almost kind of like they would raise two sinking ships. You know what I mean? Yeah. That would be great. But I don't know. I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping that they can get their heads back on, because, I mean, Warner Brothers, we're talking about a studio that's been in business for...
ever.
They're pushing 100, you know? I mean, they're one of the early studios. Paramount is about to hit 100 if they haven't already. I think they already have.
Now, that'd be an interesting merger, Paramount and Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I don't really know how that would go, especially with them both having their own streaming services now and all that. Right. But who knows?
Well, I mean, Disney... I could see Disney getting in trouble for trying to monopolize, because that has been a topic of conversation for quite a while. And I know that Disney and Warner Brothers have had a lot of beef throughout history. One of my favorite stories of their beef is when they did Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Yeah. The request was that whenever a Disney character was in the scene, a Warner Brothers character had to be in the scene too. Well, Warner Brothers got one up on Disney in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, because at the opening there's no Disney characters when the logo comes up.
Oh, okay.
And that was a big deal, and it's still a big deal today. So the beef is there definitely, but I mean, part of me would love it if they would look at Sony and Disney making deals for Spider-Man. They work together. I would love to see DC and Marvel. I would love to see the Justice League versus the Avengers. I think that would be cool. And if they could make that happen, that would be really awesome. But, who knows?
It would be... I feel like the deal could be easily done if they would put their egos aside and stop worrying about who's going to make more profit, and just say, hey, let's split it down the middle. You put up half, we put up half, and then we split profits right down the middle. So you're only financing half the budget. Yeah. And it could be your half. So all of the budget that Warner Brothers puts up for something like that, they're paying for their actors, their content. So anything that is remotely Warner Brothers, that's what they have to foot the bill on. Yeah. And then Disney could be like, okay, well, now we are going to fit the bill on these actors, these settings, characters, whatnot. And then that's their portion. Now, granted, that could be a little unbalanced depending on how the story goes. I understand that, but at the end of the day, if you split it down the middle and then you get your profit split down the middle, but they're not going to do that because somebody always wants to make more money, and that was the big beef we saw with the Spider-Man deal. Same deal, where we thought we were going to lose that deal, and it was all about money. Who's getting the bigger cut? And it's ridiculous. But corporations.
Now, I do have another thing that is sort of along the lines of what we're talking about now, but I'm going to actually use it to segue into the topic. So I know you had something else you wanted to share. Yeah. So I'll let you share that, and then I'll kind of talk about what I was going to talk about.
Well, the last thing I want to talk about is essentially award season is now upon us, and all the big nominations have kind of hit. And two things that became topics of discussion from nominations, or one nomination and one lack thereof, was, first of all, I don't know if you saw this, and I personally haven't seen the movie, but I've heard things about it, so I'm not really itching to watch it, but I still feel like this was low down, and I'm glad the public agrees, is that the little girl who was the star of the movie Firestarter, the remake, she's a 12-year-old little girl, she got nominated for a Razzie, which are the, awards for worst of the worst, so worst movies, worst actress, and she got nominated for worst actress. She's a child. Don't nominate a child for a Razzie, okay? I'm sure she's got enough to worry about in her life without having to listen to some bullshit award telling her she's the worst actress. Because adults can handle that, maybe not even as well as some, but she's a child. Don't fucking do that. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it. The Razzies are a garbage fire anyway, and they can all go to hell because they're part of the problem that I was talking about before, is that just let people enjoy what they want. And, if you don't like it, don't watch it. If this person likes it, don't criticize them for it. It's the same shit we saw last year with Halloween Ends, where you saw this divisiveness down the middle. Some love it, some hate it. If you don't like it, then don't like it. There are tons of other Halloween movies you can watch. If you love it, fantastic. Okay? So this right here is absolute horseshit. And don't be nominating children for your fucking stupid Razzies. And secondly is a snub, which this is not surprising, but this also shows, it continues to show the very political station of the Academy Awards, is the fact that how many times last year did we hear about Mia Goth being just an absolute stunner, whether it was in X or in Pearl or whatever other movie she was in last year, she was just knocking it out of the park. And Pearl, again, a movie I've yet to see, but the one thing I've heard every single time is she knocks it out of the park. Like, she is a star is born if she wasn't before that, you know what I mean? Like, she really just nailed that role. And I've heard mixed things about the story itself, but she is the standout for that film. And does she get an Oscar nod? No. Why? Because we're talking about a horror film. And it continues to go down this road where very rarely, it's not impossible, but very rarely do we ever see horror movies get nominated for Oscars. And this is one of those situations where you see this magnificent performance that gets overlooked simply because of the type of movie that it was in. And I don't feel like that's accurate. I don't feel like that's right. A great performance is a great performance, period. So it shouldn't have to be some fancy schmancy Oscar Beatty type movie just to be nominated. Now, I'll be honest with you, the one nomination I did see that was listed that really surprised me was Angela Bassett got nominated for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and I was really stunned by that because I was like, holy shit, they actually nominated somebody for a comic book movie?
Wow.
They normally get relegated to special effects awards, and that's about it. But she got nominated. I was like, okay, so there's precedent here. Now, granted, again, that's not unheard of, because we've seen, like, Heath Ledger got nominated for the Joker. Of course, that could be considered a political, because he died, and people are like, well, he should get nominated. I hope that if he was still alive, he would have got nominated, but who knows? That's a hard. We'd have to be there to see it, and I'm not 100% sure he would have gotten nominated. I feel like he should have still, but I don't know. But if her performance is as great as I've heard, she should have got nominated.
Yeah.
End of story. Now, granted, should she win? I don't know, because some of the other nominees that I've seen, I'm applause down the line for Everything Everywhere All at Once. If you haven't seen that movie, that's a ride. And kudos to that film getting all the awards that it got or nominated for, because I think it almost, if it didn't, it came close to breaking a record from what I've heard.
And so, that movie was
kudos.
That movie was made with a very small budget, and the team that edited that movie was very small.
Yeah. So and they did phenomenal. So kudos. But yeah, I hate that horror continues to get shunned like this. I feel like I'm almost positive Ellen Burstyn got nominated for The Exorcist.
I know that The Exorcist won for special effects. I do know that. I can't remember who got nominated. They do consider Silence of the Lambs a horror movie. I think of it more like a thriller.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider it a horror movie.
Yeah, so, but I agree with you. I've been seeing articles about, horror movies being shunned at the Oscars, and you watch some of these movies, their performances are just phenomenal. And yet it's like, oh, well, it's horror. We're gonna turn our backs on that, which isn't right.
No. And you really think about what it takes to really perform in a horror film, like what you have to put yourself through. I mean, to make it believable, you have to really put yourself into it. Otherwise, you're not going to sell it, and therefore the audience is not going to feel that. So I feel like it takes a lot more to be a horror actor than it does, a dramatic actor. I understand sometimes with drama, you've got to tap into different things, but horror's a different beast, man. You can't just pretend to be scared, and I've seen fake scared, and you're just like, ah.
Well, and that's the thing, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Horror is one of those genres that conveys every emotion. You can see every emotion in a horror film. Every single emotion. Everything from fear to love to humor. Everything can be put into that. And to see an actor switch through all of that is just... There's no way for me to describe it without... I love horror, you know this, but it makes me sound biased when I'm just saying they deserve every award that... they deserve to be nominated for every award because it takes a lot of chops to do that kind of stuff.
Well, let me clarify. It wasn't just Ellen Burstyn that was nominated. It was Linda Blair, Jason Miller, William Friedkin got Best Director nomination. William Peter Blatty got Best Picture nomination. Now, they didn't win all that. They won, like you said, for special effects. Or was it special effects? No, it was for sound.
Sound, okay.
And screenplay. So
I knew it was something to do with, like, on the back end of things. So
right, but it got nominated for quite a few, just didn't win them all. So it's not unheard of, but also take a look at what The Exorcist is, and it almost seems like it's one of these high-class horror films.
Yeah.
Again, that shouldn't be a reason. That shouldn't be a reason at all. A movie is a movie, and any movie should have the same opportunities that others do, not just because it's low-key horror or whatever bullshit tag they want to put on it.
Well, wasn't it a few years ago, the movie Hereditary? I'm terrible with names, but the mother in that?
Yes.
Wasn't everybody, like, really angry because she was not nominated? Because I thought her performance in that was phenomenal. The one scene of that movie that still sticks with me is when they're at the table, and she basically goes off on her son.
Yeah, oh yeah, that was intense.
And just that scene alone, all the emotion she conveys and everything, I'm just like, you get lost in that moment. And to me, that makes a great performance when you get lost in that moment. So
yeah, Toni Collette, she really knocked it out of the park.
Thank
with
you. I
that
couldn't
one
think
as
of her
well.
name.
And yeah, I mean that again goes to show you, depending on the type of movie, and that's one of those movies that you hear a lot of great things about. But yet, when it comes to the Academy Awards, man, it's just like, well, we can't nominate it. And it's like, but why can't you? No one's asking you to nominate the film. We're talking about a performance within the film. And Toni Collette, holy shit.
Yeah.
Did she, I mean, she just, whew, the emotions she had to go through, the gamut she went through. I mean, like, you feel for her by the end of it. Just like, my God, the terror she's in. So, no, she definitely got snubbed just as much as Mia Goth. So, it's a shame. Hopefully things will change over time. And I know they keep adding. It's like, oh, we'll add more nominees so we can get more people in there. It's like, nah, but now you're just doing sympathy votes. So
if they were to add more horror movies, you have any idea how many more people would actually watch?
Well, I think that's the biggest criticism they have is they've tried to adhere to the public, where they did the the fan favorite Oscar. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. Just because this is what we want. And they were trying to do that for Spider-Man. And people were like, no, we're going to vote for Justice League because people are assholes.
And, they could create just a horror category if they wanted to. They could create a top horror film of the year or this or the other. If they think that it's going to hurt putting it up against all the other movies, make its own category if you have to.
Yeah.
But I don't see a reason why some of these movies couldn't go up against these other films that are out. Even though I'm gonna say it right now, if Brendan Fraser wins an Oscar, I'll be happy.
Yeah,
just gonna say
he's from what I hear, he deserves that, and I'm so happy he got nominated.
I'm glad he's back.
But to your point, to create a separate category, it's much like what they did with animated features, because Beauty and the Beast got nominated way back when, and people were like, that's With all these other movies, no, it can't be. And
Exactly.
it's almost like it got tarnished. It's like, but why? Because it's animated. It can't be the best movie. So you're saying that it's lesser than. So if you create a horror category, you're just saying, well, it's not as
Exactly.
prestigious as these other films. What makes these other movies more prestigious? I mean, I'll be honest with you, half of them, I guarantee I'm not going to see.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. There's something about it. It just does not float my boat.
Yeah.
But there are others, yeah, sure, I'll watch them. But 9 times out of 10, the Oscar nominees, I barely watch half of them.
Right.
Because they don't interest me. But yet, these are the most prestigious movies of the year. They're the greatest movies ever made. That's your opinion, bud.
That's why I honestly, when they brought back the Chainsaw Awards, I was really happy about that because I know it's not as prestigious as an Oscar, but you know what? They gave horror its own night, and I love that.
And you know what? I think horror fans respect that because it's by horror fans actually giving proper respect to the horror genre. And if that's what they have to do, then so be it.
And you know what was really funny about that too is you hear all these articles and all these news reports that they were having trouble filling seats at the Oscars. But when they did the Chainsaw Awards, there wasn't an empty seat in the house because horror fans came together for it.
Yeah. So that's the lessons they should be taking note of. The people are telling you what's popular. The people are telling you what's good. Now, I'm not saying the people are always right because sometimes they can just choose some of the oddest stuff and just like, I don't get the appeal of this, but people know what they love, and all these. I don't want to go off on a tangent because we got a topic, but another thing that I'm getting tired of is seeing these articles where these prestigious directors are coming out and shitting on comic book films. If that's again not your bag, don't watch it.
Exactly.
Okay, I love them. I can't help it. This is something that has been ingrained in me since I was a child. These are characters that I grew up with. These are characters I love. And if they continue to put out good movies, or at least good enough movies that I'm getting my enjoyment out of it, I'm going to continue to watch them.
Exactly.
And, and I've criticized. I will criticize tons of comic book movies because I don't feel like they're up to snuff or they don't do certain characters justice. See Man of Steel and all of Zack Snyder's DC garbage. That's my opinion. That is my opinion. And anybody who can watch those films and find enjoyment in it, good. I'm glad somebody is, so it's not for nothing. But I'm sorry, it's just I just don't understand it. Why people have to continue to trash, because it's almost like they're feeling slighted. Like, well, why are people watching these superhero movies and not mine?
Well, that's just
because maybe.
Go ahead.
We just need fantasy, maybe we just need an escape, and we don't need your realistic take on the world right now. We want to escape to a fantasy world.
Exactly. That's just like a few years ago. I think it was Spielberg or somebody else. They were talking about nominating, movies from Netflix and streaming services, and it was him and I think a few other directors. They were like, those aren't real movies. If they're not in the theater, then they're not real. You know what? Most of the movies that I see on the streaming services are better than half the crap I've seen in the theater lately.
Yeah,
that's my opinion by all means, but
think about it. The amount of energy it takes for you to go out to the theater, and especially if you don't know a damn thing about this movie, so you're going to pay $20 for say 2 tickets to go see a movie that you hope is good versus staying home and just watching a movie that could be equally as good. The theater experience is great. Don't get me wrong, but you can run into loud people, rude people, and then that just ruins your whole experience. You know how bad I wanted to slap this kid that was sitting next to me in Avengers Endgame? Because everything that happened, he was like, oh, dude. And I was like, who the fuck are you talking to, man? Why are you sitting next to me? Get away from me. And it was just, and it was just bothering me the entire time.
Wow.
But you know what? That's why he watches movies. Fantastic. I just don't want him near me.
Yeah, I get that.
Anyway.
So, I have a way to segue us into our subject today.
Okay.
And it's talking about something that you love. One of the OG creators of Friday the 13th is planning a reboot,
Mm-hmm.
But with all the legal issues with Jason and everything still that exist, we could get a Friday the 13th, but it will not have Jason in it in the sense that we know him.
Yes.
So they might be
I've heard
creating
this.
something new. But that made me think about Jason as a character. And today's topic is horror movie characters that aren't truly evil. They may be broken or suffer something else, but they're not actually evil. And I think Jason really fits into that category. He wasn't who I was going to start with, but when we were talking about other stuff, I just kind of thought about it. Jason only knew a certain type of life. He was close to his mother. He saw his mom murder a bunch of teens. Maybe. But he did see his mom get decapitated.
Somehow.
Yes. And he was so attached to his mother that something in his mind just snapped and sent him on this killing spree that his mother wanted him to go on. And he spent all these years killing, because that's all he's ever known. When Freddy vs. Jason happens, from what I took away from it, Jason just wants to be alone at the camp. That's all he wants. He wants to be alone. He doesn't want anybody there. Is killing the teenagers because they're there the wrong approach? Yes.
Sure.
But I don't necessarily think Jason is an evil character. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. He's the misunderstood monster. Granted, I don't feel like he has the capacity to understand much beyond a certain point, because he does seem kind of simple-minded, and I don't really feel like that's a product of who he was, but it's a product of who he is now, as some sort of walking dead monster.
Yeah.
And to even piggyback off of that, and I've said this before, and if they're going to create a new, because I know that they're talking about a Peacock series, and then, of course, another movie, and, of course, like you said, there's all the legal issues and whatnot. I personally feel that Pamela is the sympathetic villain. And you could, and we've talked about that before, I really feel like you could portray that in such a way that you would have a hard time really feeling like she's the bad guy.
Yeah.
If you really played on the strength of a mother who just loved her son unconditionally, and a tragic accident occurred and she just snapped because of the incompetence of so many people around her, I feel like you would root for her.
Yeah.
In some way. Now, granted, like you said, with Jason, maybe not the best approach, but there would be a part of you that would kind of see where she was coming from and just be like, I know this isn't right. I can't condone what she's doing, but I get it. Because even in the last few minutes we get to see of her in the original Friday the 13th, if you really think about it, you can relate in some aspect. You can understand this is just a mother who lost her son who's having an issue. Really flesh that out. So that's what I'm kind of hoping. I know this was my idea long before they came along. But if the Peacock show wants to explore that, then explore it. Really, really explore it. Make her so sympathetic. Don't worry about Jason. We don't need hints that he's going to turn into some, mongoloid killer in the future and see hockey mask, because they do that shit in prequels all the time. It's like, look, there's a hockey mask. He's looking at a hockey mask. Look what he's doing. No one cares. We get it. We know what's going to happen. But to see her start, I would go all the way back to her childhood. Really understand where she came from, maybe her life growing up. Maybe she didn't have it easy. Maybe and really try to understand why she has this connection to him. And that's an element I think would be really fantastic, because you could see all the people in her life, just toxic people, and then the one good thing in her life is Jason.
Yeah.
Like the shining light in her life. So when he came along, and maybe even that came from a bad place.
Yeah.
The guy who's responsible. I hate to go, hopefully this doesn't trigger anybody, but maybe she was raped, and as bad as it is, she can turn it around in some way and find positive, because now she has this child and she's going to care for it and she's going to protect it and she's going to do everything she can for him no matter what. And all the pain in her life is gone, all because of this child.
Yeah.
Think about just if it's well written, well done. She is a fantastically sympathetic villain, and I think it could be even more sympathetic if written correctly. So
yeah.
hopefully we get to see that. But no, her and Jason both, because like you said, in Freddy vs. Jason, I feel like they really played on sympathy for Jason, really trying to understand what happened with him and getting you to sympathize with him, because you technically needed a villain in the movie, so you had technically someone to root for. And Freddy just kind of became the catalyst to become the villain because he's kind of a dick.
Well, and my my whole thought on this whole list and everything was, if the characters take pride in what they do. Freddy takes pride in being evil and killing. Like, he enjoys it. Jason, to me, it kind of feels like Jason's just, I've got to do what I've got to do. Like, that's how I've always felt about Jason as a character. Like, I don't think Jason takes pride in what he does, if that makes sense. I don't think he doesn't seek it out like, I have to do this because it feels good to me. To me, it's just Jason's like, you're in my way, you're here, you're not supposed to be here. Even in Freddy vs. Jason, whenever anybody got in his way, he messed people up. Obviously, it all started when Freddy posed as his mom, and then, he poses as his mom again, then he disappears, and my instant thought was Jason thought that Freddy took his mother from him, and so that started the big fight and everything. So...
Yeah, I mean, you think of a Jason, he's like a shark. He's got one goal, and that's to, granted, he's not eating, but, the same as a shark. They eat, they move on, they eat, they move on. He kills, moves on, kills, moves on, and that's it.
Speaking of sharks, I know you said you had a list. Did you put Bruce from Jaws on your list?
I did not.
See, I was thinking about that. I don't necessarily think Jaws is evil. He's just a shark that's gotten a taste for human meat.
I mean, you're not far off, yeah. I mean, I couldn't really argue down the line, because then the sharks start to become a little bit more sentient about what they're doing.
Yes, but
somehow.
The first movie, though, I would not say that Jaws is evil. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, to me, it's just an animal.
Yeah.
That has gotten a taste for human blood, human flesh, and I guess you could argue that he's evil, but that was another one that I was thinking about. So. Yeah,
no, I mean, it's a good argument. I could see that. Okay, if you're just going by, he's like, you know what? That was actually pretty good. I want more of this.
And I mean, that has been reported in the wild that, once sharks get a taste of human flesh, sometimes they do, like, seek it out. So, I don't...
The understanding is that we're like sweet candy, but I've never eaten human flesh and don't intend to.
Yeah,
so.
no, I'm good. But Jaws was another one I kind of had there, but I don't want to do too many here. Go ahead and name somebody off of your list here, and we'll...
Okay, so here's one that I feel like I can argue is sympathetic, and that would be Seth Brundle from The Fly. And if you look at the way that story goes down, it's really about obviously good body horror, but it's about a man who had an idea, who had a great idea, and there was an accident. And because of that accident, he becomes a fly. And he's not intending to hurt anybody, but the accident has just kind of, the transformation that's happening in him, where he's becoming more fly than human. He's starting to lose his way. He's trying to hang on to the last bit of humanity he has left. And as things just start to fall apart around him, he's falling apart literally and figuratively. And even at the end, I mean, if you've never seen it, skip ahead, but I highly recommend you watch The Fly.
Fantastic
even at the
film.
end, shows you how sympathetic he is, because he realizes how bad he'd fucked up and just asked to be put down, because it's just like, I can't, just kill me, please. Like, I'm in pain, help me. And you sympathize, like you look at this grotesque creature, and then he just puts the shotgun barrel to his head, just like, for fuck's sake, please. And Gina Davis is just crying her eyes out, but you sympathize because you're just like, fuck yeah, And he there was never any real malice to what he was doing. If you think about it, he was just trying to do something to benefit humanity. There was an accident, and that's really all it was. It was just a plain accident. He just missed the fly, and his creation messed him up, and then from there, it's just the de-evolution of the man into a creature. And he's just, again, trying to hang on to the last bit of humanity he had left. Because when he found out that the girl, or Gina Davis's character, was pregnant, what did he do? He went after her. And it wasn't to hurt her. He was just like, don't kill me. That's what he even said to her. Please don't kill me. The last part of me. The baby is mine too. That's the last bit of my humanity. Please don't take it from me. How can you not? Because sympathize with that. Because you understand where she's coming from. Because what if? Does this kid have part of his fly DNA? Is it going to be a mutant? You saw her dream where it comes out a maggot? I mean, yeah, all the thoughts are there. I get it.
Yeah.
But that's the last remnants of his humanity. He's just like, please don't do this. Please. So there's just so much sympathy in that character and the way Jeff Goldblum portrays him. And I think that's why the movie endures, is because you never feel like he's a bad person.
Yeah.
It's just like he's going quite mad because of the situation, but it's not his fault. He never did this to himself intentionally. He wasn't meaning to hurt anybody. It's just how he devolved. And for every good sympathetic monster, I feel like that's what it is. It's the situation they're put in and how they're having to deal with it. And sometimes it might not be great, but they can't help it. It's almost like their hand is forced.
And see, I distinctly remember the first time that I saw that film. That's how I felt watching it. Like watching him just slip further and further away. I wasn't terrified of the character at all. I didn't think he was bad. I just felt really bad for him.
Yeah.
And it just, like, even at the end, that kid, to this day, it kills me a little bit when I see it, because I'm like, he knows there's no going back.
Yeah.
He knows that who he was is gone. And this last little bit of him that remains knows that he'll never get to be human again.
Yeah.
So that one definitely does hit hard.
For sure, yeah.
Now,
no, it's definitely one of Cronenberg's best. So
yes.
Highly recommended if you haven't seen
Which
it.
he's supposedly releasing another new film, because he did Crimes of the Future, I think it was called, that just came out last year, I think, or something like that.
I'm not 100% sure.
Can't remember the name, but he's doing another film, I guess, sometime this year or next year or something. So
now, was this the one that his son did that came out Sundance? Because I saw something about that.
might have been.
I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. I know I've got Google. Just give me a second and I'll find it. But I've been hearing great things about that, so I thought that would be kind of interesting, because I don't know what it is about that family and body horror, but that seems to be their bag. And speaking of that, while I'm thinking about it, because that was something I wanted to touch on, another thing they do masterfully in that film, and I think it's to keep you sympathetic to him, is they never utilize the gore or uncomfortable situations in a way to gross you out. Like, I remember there was the scene where he was filming himself talking about how he has to eat food, and the entire process of how a fly has to eat food, and you're hearing it and you're like, are we going to watch him just vomit and just eat all this goop and stuff like that? But they don't. They never show it. They cut away and you hear it, but they never show it to you. And I thought, well, that's kind of smart, because I feel like that you would kind of lose a bit of that sympathy in some way, because then you're seeing something, just a little off-putting, and you're just like, oh man, I didn't really want to see that. So I think that was a very smart choice to do that.
That and them saving it till the end, when they do finally show him puke up on that on the one guy's leg and on his arm.
Yeah.
When they actually show that,
Yeah.
That's when you know that to me, that's when you know that his humanity is just
Exactly.
fleeting. So, and it's David Cronenberg. He directed and he did the screenplay. It's on Hulu now, apparently. It's called Crimes of the Future. It came out last year. I think he's doing another film. I just don't. I think he's doing another one this year.
Well, the movie that I was talking about was called Infinity Pool, and that's directed by his son, Brandon.
Maybe that's what I had seen.
I think it dropped at Sundance, and I guess it's getting screened there. And the review that I read gave it about an 8 out of 10, saying it was, pretty interesting. But being one of those body horror Cronenberg films, it really pushes the limits of things, and you're just like, oh, shit,
Yeah. Speaking of bodies, I do have an OG character that I would not consider evil.
Okay.
And as soon as I say this, anybody who's listening will probably be like, well, yeah. Frankenstein's monster.
Sure.
I'm going to just put that out there. Frankenstein's monster didn't ask to be created. And to me, Frankenstein's monster was kind of like a child, exploring a world that didn't understand.
Yeah.
Did Frankenstein's monster deal with things the right way? No, but didn't know any better.
Exactly.
And, you know, when they actually gave Frankenstein a good brain, I believe it was, I think it was the direct sequel, maybe, with his bride. He even said, we belong dead together, because he knew he shouldn't exist. So definitely another one of those characters that, this is a quick one, but one of those characters that I would say is not necessarily evil. So
No, not at all. I mean, he's a product of his creator, and like you said, he didn't ask for this, and he just gets thrown out into the world, and he doesn't know any better. He's simple-minded, and he tries to learn, he tries to blend in, and then you even see when he tries to befriend someone, it gets taken away from him. And I don't know if you remember this, and this is a divisive take, and I even watched it recently, and there are things about it I guess I hadn't really observed before, but the remake that was done, I think in 1995, I think it was directed by Kenneth Branagh, and this was, I guess, trying to piggyback off of Bram Stoker's Dracula by Coppola, and, you know, they were trying to do these highbrow remakes of these classic movie monsters and whatnot, and there was a scene in that, always gets me every time, is after the monster has kind of escaped, he runs into, very similarly to in Bride of Frankenstein, where he runs into the blind man. In this, he kind of comes into contact with a family. And I think the grandfather of that family is blind. But he, like, the family gets distracted and they're taken off somewhere, and then, you know, the monster comes into contact with the old man. He actually saves him, if I'm not mistaken, from some locals who are trying to rough him up. So he runs them off, and the old man is just like, you know, come sit down, you know, being friendly, just very much like in that same vein, and trying to make him feel comfortable. He thinks he's found a friend. He's been helping this family secretly, you know, trying to help them and benefit their life. And then the family comes home, seeing, you know, the destruction that had happened because of the thieves or whomever that was trying to rough up the old man, and they chase him off, you know, and just like, get out of here, blah. And so he's panicked because, again, simple-minded, he doesn't know any better. And then the next shot you see him, and he's just crying in pain because, you know, he lost his friend, the family that he thought were his, you know, he was taking care of. They shunned him and broke his heart, and it really gets to you when you watch it, or at least it does to me, because you feel that pain, because all he wants is to belong.
yeah.
And this family that he was taking care of, he was helping, and he did it in secret because he was worried of this very thing. And then when they finally see him, then he get exactly the concern and worry that he had comes true, and it breaks his heart, and it breaks Mom watching him cry. So little things like that, yeah. I mean,
Now,
I don't know. He's definitely sympathetic.
Speaking of Frankenstein, did you ever watch the show Penny Dreadful?
No, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
So there is a version of Frankenstein in Penny Dreadful, and if you get the chance to watch it, it's a fantastic series. The original, I've not seen. They did a newer one, and I guess it got canceled after one season. But this original one, you actually meet. It's like a young Dr. Frankenstein, but you meet his monster. They never call him. They never call him, you know, Frankenstein's monster or anything. But he's like a normal person. He can communicate and everything. He's really pale. You know, he looks like a dead person that got brought back to life. Is the best way to describe it. But he's trying to understand who he is and what he is. And there's a scene. I really don't want to spoil it for you, but I feel like I need to tell you at least about this part of it.
Okay.
He actually finds his old life. He was married and he had a kid, and his kid was sick. And his kid ends up dying. And the mom wants her kid back, and she says, "Well, do what they did to you." She wants him to turn their son into a monster like himself.
Right.
And she tells him that if he doesn't come back with their son, not to come back at all. And there's this really just touching scene where he's like, I wouldn't want this curse on anyone. And he basically does like a burial at sea of his son.
Okay.
But just the actor that they picked to play him, and the way that the way that they do the scene. When I first watched the show, like in the beginning, he was kind of a whine baby, I thought. But then, like, you quickly become extremely sympathetic. And, like, they show his trials. Like, he's on a ship with all these people in the Arctic. Like, people are freezing to death and dying, and he's the only one on the ship that, like, survives. And he honestly he doesn't want to exist anymore. Like, his life is constantly just not wanting to exist and not understanding why he's the way that he is. But it's definitely, it added a whole other layer to Frankenstein's monster for me. And I will talk about Penny Dreadful. I don't want to jump down this rabbit hole because I absolutely loved the series. One of the main characters in it, he was in that show Doom Patrol. He was like their leader, the older gentleman that's like their leader.
Oh, Timothy Dalton?
Yes, thank you. He's got a beard in it, and he's like this hunter, and he's a badass, killing all these vampires and stuff. He's pretty cool.
Interesting, all right.
It's not a very long series, so if you do get the chance, I would give it a watch. It's definitely something I think you and Trina would both enjoy.
I feel like maybe she has watched it. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I feel like maybe she has watched it. I could be wrong.
And it has the gentleman that played. He was the main guy in 30 Days a Night. He used to be in a bunch of movies.
Are we talking about the main vampire?
No,
Or...
the
you're talking about Josh Hartnett.
Yes, him. And then the girl in it, who's one of the main people. I'm terrible with names. She was in what was the Johnny Depp movie where he's the vampire?
Dark Shadows?
Thank you. She Dark Shadows. She's the witch in Dark Shadows. She's a great actress too. I'm terrible with names.
I'm trying to think of who you're talking about.
What is her name?
God.
What is her name?
I'm sure we got people just it's this person. I'm sorry.
It's on the tip of my tongue here. I'm gonna look it up because I can't. It's gonna drive me crazy.
Yeah.
Eva Green.
Eva Green.
Yeah, she plays a psychic in it. She's got all these abilities in it, and she's basically destined to fall in love with Dracula. And when she falls in love with him, it will bring on basically the end of days.
Okay.
And it's a doozy of a show. And there's demons and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, if you get the chance to watch it, it's really cool. You find out that like all the characters have their own like curses, and they all have like things from their past that really affect who they are. But yeah, Frankenstein's monster in it is definitely the biggest thing that made me love it. So
right.
But
okay.
On to more sympathetic characters. I bet you have a few more, so go ahead.
Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to figure out where I want to go with this next. All right, I'm going to change it up a little bit. I think because this one could be definitely something that stands out a little bit. I'm going to say Carrie White, because this is a girl who is a product of her situation, her surroundings. She did not ask for her mother and the life that she has had to grow up in. She is bullied mercilessly for no reason other than the other girls in her class just don't like her. They think she's weird, and they just want to pick on her because, why? Because they're dicks. I don't know any other reason to say. So when she snaps at the end, I feel like it's justified. Granted, she maybe went overboard, depending on how you want to look at it, but I don't like bullies, and I have no sympathy for any of those bullies. Now, granted, there were a few people who got caught up in the mix who didn't deserve it, and, that's unfortunate, but bullies got their comeuppance, and I feel like this goes back to something we talked about in the last episode about the underdog, getting their payback, getting their revenge. This is exactly what it is. You tell me what person who has ever been bullied in their life would not watch Carrie and 100% sympathize with her plight by the end of that movie, because they do some horrid shit to her.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about before. This is long before they dumped the pig's blood on her. I'm talking about everything up to that point, the shit they do to her, the things they put her through. This is the type of stuff that leads to school shootings.
Yeah.
Okay? And I don't want to condone that in any way, shape, or form. But when we break it down and try to understand what was wrong with these children who decided to take a gun and shoot up the school, I guarantee you're going to find stuff like this, where the student is picked on mercilessly, feels like that no one, or even if they kill themselves, School, kids committing suicide. They were bullied because somebody treated them like garbage on social media. And that's another problem too. You could update the hell out of this to use that as a backdrop. But there's nothing malicious about this girl.
No.
Up until the end. And it was just like she'd had enough. It was like the last straw had been broken. Her last nerve had just been snapped, and she was like, I can't take it. And just boom. And it was the situation she was in. I don't feel like that there was another situation. Maybe that's exactly why this was the moment. It's because it was a public display of embarrassment. And she was like, I'm done. I'm done.
Yep.
And it just came off. So this could have been like a genuine, just not even thinking reaction. Sometimes you get so angry or so frustrated that you just react. She reacted. So I 100% wholeheartedly sympathize with Carrie White.
Carrie was actually on my list as well, for that same exact reason. I also factored in the fact that her home life was no better. This girl was getting no breaks anywhere, and it's kind of funny because Samantha and I had a conversation, and I'm going to ask you about another character, actually, speaking of this, but Samantha made a good point. She was like, when you see in movies like a character gets killed, and then they come back for revenge, and they only take revenge on the people that killed them. She's like, I think that's justified. She's like, but if you're going to just keep killing and killing and killing, then it's not justified. And I kind of agree with her on that one.
No, I would, 100%.
I think, like you said, I think Carrie just snapped, and let's be honest, she didn't really know she had these powers.
Yeah.
And, you find out you have these powers, you don't know what to do with them. You're angry, you're hurt, you just go nuts. And that's what she did. Mm-hmm. She just snapped. But Samantha was telling me about a character that she kind of thought should fit on this list, and I think she has some secret crush on this character. She brought up Candyman, and I don't know how to feel
on my list.
I see where she's coming from. He was murdered. He was murdered for being in love with the wrong person.
Right.
And he honestly just wants his story known, and he doesn't come unless you call him.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see where Candyman's not necessarily evil.
Right.
He's just trying to make sure that his story is never forgotten.
Sure.
But what's your viewpoint on it? Because I'm not.
No, I mean, that's exactly the point that I was going to make was that, like you said, he was killed for falling in love with the wrong woman or wrong person, however you want to spin it. And even the updated version, I mean, that guy was fairly sympathetic as well. He was killed for, I can't even remember all the details, but it was like wrongful killing. And he just kind of got roped into something. So the legend of the Candyman kind of boils down to these people who are wrongly accused and taken and murdered for no reason other than what seems to be the color of their skin. And they become these phantoms that can then haunt and, like you said, not allow their stories to be forgotten because they then become legends within the community. And then people try to call their name, but then that just allows them to be remembered.
Yeah.
Because someone hears the legend and then they come back, they kill somebody. Now, granted, is that person, do they deserve to be killed? I mean, a lot of the times you see the people who are killed, and they seem like they're terrible people. So you want to assume that they're only targeting bad people.
Yeah.
So I would try to use that as an understanding from that point of view, is that, yes, he is killing bad people. But I'm sure that a few have gotten caught in the crossfire who didn't deserve it as such. One, I guess, could be, what was her name? I remember the actress's name. I can't remember her name. Virginia Madsen in the first movie. And she just kind of got roped in because she was kind of, what would be the right term here? I guess he found a desire for her and just kind of roped her into it because she then kind of became a Candyman, if you will, by the end of it.
Helen Lyle.
Helen, yes. And see, that's one of the things I loved about the last movie is how they roped in her story with this new story.
Yeah, that's what I like about it, too.
Yeah, even Daniel's story got tied in as well, which I appreciated because it was almost like saying it's not just about one Candyman, it's about the idea, the concept of Candyman and what that means for so many different people and structures. Now, I haven't seen Candyman 2 or 3, So I don't know how they really tie in. I feel like there was a tie-in with, I can't remember, the main guy in the new one. Wasn't he the child of Helen's friend?
I believe so.
And that's how that's how they kind of tied in. I don't know. So, but yeah, no, Daniel Robitel, he's definitely sympathetic, or at least I sympathize with him from the perspective of his plight. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong, 100%.
Fun little fact, real quick, just about Candyman. They used real bees in the original, and Tony Todd had a really good lawyer and a really good manager, and they actually got a deal where every time he got stung, he got paid $1,000.
Nice.
He made, I think, $27,000 or $30,000 for the movie.
I hope it was worth it.
Considering how many bees he had on him, I'd say he got off pretty lucky as far as stings go. Now, I have an interesting one for you.
Okay.
Not the remake, but the original films. I'm going to put the Cenobites on this.
Okay.
I don't think the Cenobites are evil. They even tell you, we only come when we're called.
Mm-hmm.
They have a job to do, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and they're really good at doing their jobs. In the first movie, they could have killed the girl. They could have, when she called them by accident. But they knew that it was not on purpose, and she made them a deal because Hank had gotten away.
Right.
But I've never seen them as evil because they've never gone out of their way to seek somebody out just to kill them. Do they take pride?
And that was
Go ahead.
Well, no, that was my exact problem with the remake, is how they felt like they were malicious and were out to get people, not for any other reason than, well, we're out, I guess we're going to kill you, and that's how it felt to me.
Yeah.
Versus, as you said, when they're called, it's just like, okay, well, someone opened the door, what's going on here? And are we going to take you in? We're going to take you out. And with Kirsty, it was, well, this wasn't meant to be opened by you. And even when you go into the second one, when they realize that one girl who opened the box, they realized she was not doing it willfully, but under the instruction of another person. And that's when Pinhead intervened. It was like, nope, she did not open this because she wanted to. She was not seeking pleasure. She was just doing it because someone asked her to.
Exactly.
So we're not going to touch her. And that, to me, always made them more fascinating to me because they don't come off as horror villains. And I think that's where it kind of got lost with Hellraiser 3. Granted, I do enjoy that film, but he becomes more of a archetype that we've seen a slasher, because now Pinhead's like, well, I'm going to go on a killing spree. It's great. It's a fun scene, but it's so out of character from what we've seen prior.
Yeah, I know that I mentioned, they don't so much, to be on this list, they maybe don't take so much pride in what they do. But the Cenobites are an exception, for me anyways, at least in the fact that it's their job. Like, that's what the box does. It calls them so that they can show you great pleasures, and to experience great pleasure, you must experience great pain. It's their job, and they take pride in what they do. But they only do it when they are called to do it. They don't seek it out.
Right.
So I will definitely put them on the list for that reason. So
for sure.
But go ahead. I'm sure you've got another one.
Okay. So this one might be wishy-washy for some people, but I feel like I can make a case for this one. And that would be Norman Bates. Very much in the same vein of someone like Carrie White, I feel like he is a product of his situation. He had a very overbearing mother who, when we actually, if you want to utilize Psycho 4 as a catalyst.
I have something just real quick, I'm sorry. Not only could you compare him to Carrie White, you could also compare him to Jason in the sense of how much he loved his mother.
Yeah.
So, but
very much so,
go ahead. Sorry.
But, I mean, this is a kid who, unlike Jason, his mother was very, very troubled in her own ways. And how she treated him, the things she did to him, the connection she created for them is what led to his mental problems, if you think about it, because she was like, nope, nobody loves you but mother, and I'm the only person that matters, and you got to take care of me. And anytime he would have, and granted, this is utilizing the information we get out of Psycho 4, which I feel like really helps you understand the character, and the fact that Anthony Perkins was part of that makes me feel like this is all canon in the best possible ways, because he just wants to be normal. You know, you take a look at Psycho 2. He just wanted to move on with his life. He got out of prison, and he understood that people were not going to be copacetic with him being out, because the entire town was like, oh, here's that lunatic, here's that nut job, you know, we got to have to deal with him. And he just wants to be left alone. He does not want to be bothered. He's a very timid young man who just doesn't want to be bothered. And yet little things would trigger him. And it's because of what his mother did to him. Like when he would have thoughts about a girl, what would happen? He would have these trigger moments. Same thing that happened with, what's her name? The Janet Leigh's character. No, I can think of it. Come on. Damn it. I'm going to lose my cred. Man, I can't think of her name. Marion Crane. Jesus.
There it is.
There we go. But when he saw her, you know, when she comes to the motel, he gets, you know, she's a beautiful woman, and he's taken aback by her. He's just like, oh, wow, you know, getting these feelings. And then when he kind of pervy peeks, and this is where he kind of loses a little credibility for me, but he perv peeks in on her in her room and whatnot. But that also explains his psyche, you know, because he feels like he has to do it at a distance. Like he can't view her from any other window but right there, because, well, what if Mama finds out, you know? And this is like peeking into the little hole and be like, well, no one's going to know about this. So it kind of plays on that. And when he has those urges, when he has those desires, what happens? Mother triggers. And this is because of what she did to him. So his dual personality is because of the shit she put him through. So when she died, he had nothing. That part of him was gone. So he created it in his head to keep it alive, because that's the life he's only known. So he did not want to be this person. This is the person his mother turned him into. And I feel that's very sympathetic.
Honestly, I'll agree with you on that, because if you really think about it, like you said, it's almost like when he lost his mother, it caused his personality to split. He was so grief-stricken, it caused that split, where we've still got Norman, but we've also got Mother. And whenever something would happen, he knew her so well because of everything she did to him, that when he would do something that she didn't approve of, that split personality would come out and take care of the problem. So, yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that one, 100%.
Yeah, and I know that some could argue that, well, what about this or what about that? But, I mean, even to some degree, if I'm not mistaken, in Psycho 2, he didn't kill a soul. He was being set up the entire time. And then it was almost like they were trying to trigger it out of him or place the blame on him, because it's like, well, the nut's out, so we've got to frame him for all these murders. And I felt like that's why that was so fascinating, because he doesn't do anything. He's not to blame for any of it. But you think he is, because, again, what we know of him. And it was all because someone just wanted to place blame on him. And that's an underrated sequel a lot of people don't talk about, and that I would highly recommend people checking out. I think it was directed by Tom Holland, who did Fright Night, if I am not mistaken. I want to take a look to make sure that I'm correct, because I could be talking out of my ass. But I feel like I'm right. And, well, he's got to be the director. He has a role in it, damn it. So he has to be the director. And why is it not coming up? You know, I'm looking, there we go, thank you. Nope. Okay, he wrote it. Okay, so Tom Holland wrote it, but directed by Richard Franklin. So, excuse me, but I knew he was involved some way.
Hey, at least you knew.
I knew something.
Now, I have a feeling this, because I have another one that popped into my brain, and I have a feeling this one might be on your list.
Okay.
Mama. Spirit from Mama. The easiest way I can describe it, she lost her baby.
Mm-hmm.
She found 2 children and became their protector. And when they were being taken from her, she did not handle it well. But again, we can compare her to Pamela Voorhees in the sense that when you lose your children, you will go to great lengths. And that is definitely a character that I feel for. The first time I watched the movie, I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. I have revisited it, and coming from that standpoint and watching it, I definitely sympathize with the spirit in it. And if I remember right, at the end, she does take one of the kids with her because they give her
I can't remember.
they give her baby's bones. She takes those, and I think the littler girl goes off the edge with her, if I remember right. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Could be.
Here.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'm sorry, people. We're bad at remembering stuff.
Yes. So the younger sister, that's correct. The younger sister goes over the edge with Mama, and they turn into butterflies at the end of the film. To me, when that happens, that shows that, because let's face it, the spirit is pretty terrifying in the movie. She does some terrible, like she breaks some guy's neck, I think, with one hand, turns his head and breaks his neck, and just a very terrifying spirit. But when you realize that one of the kids willingly wanted to go with her off the cliff, to me that just spoke to how good she actually was to the children.
Right.
And I was able to sympathize with her from that aspect of things. So, definitely a character I don't think is evil. A character that got really screwed over in life. Yeah. Another one that I kind of thought of, I know it's not a film series that you like very much, but Silent Hill. The little girl from Silent Hill, I will sympathize for her. Okay. She destroyed the town. She cursed the town because they thought she was evil, and they tried to kill her.
Right.
So, yeah, I won't go into a bunch of detail, but I sympathize with her 100%. And I'm glad that she gets her revenge. And she makes razor blade. She makes barbed wire fencing go up some lady's private bits and tears her in half. And honestly, I think the lady deserved it. So,
fair.
I will put that one out. I do have one other one, but I'm going to let you, I'm sure you have a few. I'm going to let you get into maybe another one if you have another one. I know that you have not seen the movie that I will bring up because I think we've talked about it before, but it's on Tubi. It's free. If you get the chance to watch it, please watch it and let me know what you think of it. But I'll let you get into one if you have one, because I was thinking of more creature features, but I feel like that could be its own episode, honestly. So
yeah, I was trying to stick with, I guess, more, I don't want to say human, but yeah, I guess that would be the proper term. Human characters. I've only really got one left, and I feel like I make a good case here. Some may disagree, but I feel like Leatherface could be considered a sympathetic character because we're talking about a simple-minded individual who is being ordered to kill people. He's not the mastermind. He's doing what his family tells him to. He's like, go kill this person, go kill this one, go after this one, you got to cut this up, you got to do this, you got to clean the house, you got to do all that. And he just does it because they're the smart ones, and he's just, the simpleton, and he doesn't know any better. And we see where he tries to kind of break free of that in Texas Chainsaw 2, where he becomes infatuated with Stretch, and he wants to keep her safe. He wants to hide her from his family, and he might not understand all the, his emotions in that moment, but he's taken with her. He might want to do other stuff to her, as we kind of got hints of. But the fact, we'll just keep it simple. He was infatuated with her. He liked her. He wanted to keep her. And granted, it's maybe not the best thing in the world, but like most monsters in the situation, like the creature from the Black Lagoon, like you mentioned before, it was a creature that infatuated with the woman and took her back to his cave and just wanted to be with her. He meant her no harm.
They invaded his turf.
And right. So that was the same thing here. He liked Stretch. He wanted to be with her. And I don't think he would have attacked any of the other kids from part 1 had they not been snooping around his house, because there was even a great scene in there that I felt like spoke to his mental state and maybe understanding that he did not want to do this, and this was almost like protective, because you have these kids walking into your house, invading your property. He doesn't know who they are, and I think it was after you had Pam and Kirk show up, and those are the first two that go down, and I think it was when Jerry showed up is where you actually get to see this, because he hits him on the head with the hammer after he kind of finds the bodies of Kirk and Pam, and he does this little moment like this where he's just kind of running around the house, like looking around, screaming, just like, ah! Like he's just, where are all these people coming from? Why are they in my house? And then he just sits down and he's just patting his face like he's just trying to calm down. So you look at it from that perspective, it's like, why are people in my house? Why are people invading? You know, he's not trying to hurt anybody. He was just like, I'm minding my own business. They're coming into my house, breaking and entering, if you think about it. And he was protecting his home. You know, he meant no, ill repute. It was just, he was protecting himself, so to speak. So I think he can be very sympathetic, and we've seen elements of being sympathetic, not just because he's simple, but because he's, he doesn't want to hurt everybody. He's just being forced to because they're into meat. And he gets treated like garbage, honestly.
Yeah, well, and even in the original ones, and I was a fan of the remakes that they did with, what was her name? Jessica Biel, I believe it was. Even the remakes they did, I actually thought they were done pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I noticed from every movie, he is a product of his family. They're the ones that tell him to do these things. They call him dumb. They call him all kinds of stuff. They force him to do these things. And especially in the remakes, you see some hesitation from him in certain parts. And it's like he doesn't want to do these things almost. It's like he wants to just kind of stick to himself, do his own thing. But when his family gives him approval, he's like a puppy that gets told good job. He likes that approval. And so it brings that side out of him more. So I would definitely agree with you, and I think that's another reason why that I know I'm going to frustrate you when I say this. I think that's another reason that Netflix movie failed so badly was because he didn't have the family, and it seemed almost out of character for him to just go on this killing spree by himself. So
absolutely.
I will definitely sympathize with you there, and say that I agree with you as far as that goes. But there's a movie called They Wait. It is from 2007. It's one of those movies, it's only got a 5.4 out of 10 on IMDb, but I'm not going to go from what their reviews are. I actually really liked this movie.
Okay.
It's basically woman and her husband go to a relative's funeral. Their son starts to see ghosts. Their son ends up in the hospital. There is one ghost in particular that basically has a hold on his heart, is making his heart fail. Well, come to find out, the husband's family, his uncles and his aunt and whatnot, used to run an illegal business. And one of the spirits in particular is of a young woman who used to work there who found out part of their dark secret and got killed. So they are just trying to seek justice, these spirits are. I sympathize with them. I sympathize with the main spirit in it. It's one of those films that I would tell everybody that's listening, and I would tell you too, if you get the chance to watch it, you would probably watch it, and then if we talked about it again, you would probably look at me and go, I completely get why you sympathize with them, because they did her really dirty. They did her so freaking wrong in it, and like just thinking about it irritates me. It's up there with even the movie Shudder.
Yeah. Which
again, that's a movie about a spirit who's just trying to get the truth known. But yeah, They Wait. If you get the chance to watch it, definitely give it a chance. I wish it had a higher review on IMDb, because even on Rotten Tomatoes, it's only got a 40%. Maybe it's because they feel like it was rushed a little bit. But I enjoyed it for what it was. It has to do with something to do with an organ in a bear. They were illegally selling it.
Okay.
And it's a weird thing. It's something over in China or something. I think it's like used for medical purposes, but it's like illegal to do. So they were killing like innocent animals to do it. And this girl catches it, takes a meat cleaver to the head. Yeah. Okay. And one of my favorite scenes in it is the one, the aunt who actually delivered the killing blow. She, this is years later, she's sitting there and she starts to like gag, and she spits a bone out of her mouth, and she just starts gagging up all these bones. And like, I think she like kind of pieces them together and it looks like a hand or something. But there's a part at the end of it where they turn and you just see all these spirits, and the one spirit of the girl is the one right in front, and then they all like go at her. So
okay.
But it's a great movie, and I didn't realize it was on Tubi. I'm probably gonna have to watch it again myself, because it's been a minute. I kind of found it just out of nowhere. Looks like it's free on Tubi. It's on YouTube's premium subscription. It's $2 on Amazon.
Okay.
And then it's on Sling TV as well. But yeah, that's another one of those. I can't do it justice by talking about it because it's been a minute, but it is a character that's always stuck with me, the spirit of the girl, just because they did her so dirty, and there's a part of it where you do think that she's evil, but then you realize what happened, and you're like, she had to do something crazy to get noticed.
Right.
So I would definitely put it there. But I know we're coming up on quite a bit of time. I don't know where we're at right now, but I wanted to bring one other thing up just real quick, and
Okay.
we can talk about this another episode as well, because I think it would be fun. But just as kind of a teaser, we're talking about characters that are sympathetic. Are there any characters that you could think of that and it can be a character that is just downright evil, if they made them sympathetic, it would make for a great film? Is there any character that comes to mind? I bet you can guess who mine's going to be, but...
Well, no, I would actually, if it's going to be Freddy, I can go ahead and say they had that opportunity and they blew it.
Exactly.
Go ahead and say that, because that would absolutely be my top spot, because they blew that opportunity.
It would have added a whole other level to that character. If he really would have been innocent,
Yeah.
They could have changed the story up so much, and if the kids could have proved his innocence and, justified it. What if he was just a vengeful spirit who was trying to get the wrongs righted, that, what had happened to him? And it would have been even cooler if, he would have turned on the kids and the kids would have found out that he was innocent, and maybe they were the gateway to bring him to get revenge on their parents. So the kids turned on their parents. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
But he's one of those characters that I'm like, that was the thing that they always hinted that he did terrible things to kids in the old movies, but they never came out and said it.
But this was their opportunity to do something different.
Exactly.
And really take it to because they had me sold there for a minute, and I was like, are we really going to do this? And it would have been so perfect.
Yeah.
So perfect. And I'm so disappointed in those filmmakers for saying, no, let's make him absolutely reprehensible to the point where you can't sympathize with him at all.
Exactly.
Because even with Robert Englund's version, even though he's not a great guy, you never get it. There's that line that they put in the sand where it's like, well, we're not saying he ever did anything to children other than kill them.
Yeah.
And for me, that was like just enough.
Yeah.
But the moment you say that he was doing things to children, you lost me. I don't
Right?
like this guy. I have no sympathy for him, and he's not a likable character, period.
Yeah. And I honestly think the remake would have been a success if they would have gone off of the he was actually innocent storyline.
Yeah.
I think it would have been looked at in a different regard. But I was trying to think of characters that, if they were to change them around, make them necessarily sympathetic in a certain sense, it would be better. And Freddy came to mind because Freddy, the way he is now, he really is just evil. I mean, there's no other way around it. But I don't know. It's just I can't think of other characters that I could do a sympathetic angle with.
Yeah, it's really not that easy to come up with anything that just, I don't know. I'm sure there's someone out there that we're just not thinking of, but it's hard to come by.
Yeah.
And really think of some. There was another one that I was considering, but I'd have to remember a lot of the story behind him, which was Victor Crowley from Hatchet. I felt like he had kind of a sympathetic bent to him.
He was,
and his story.
Yeah, he was deformed. And his dad, which it's funny because in the flashback, Kane Hodder, who plays Victor Crowley, plays his dad.
Mm-hmm.
Some kids were going to scare the crap out of him with like fireworks or something, and their cabin caught on fire, and he was stuck in the cabin, and his dad took a hatchet and was hacking at the door to try to get the door down, and Victor got too close, and when the hatchet went through the door, it hit Victor in the face. And
Right.
Victor's spirit, basically, every night, his spirit comes back to life, and his spirit is basically in that same state of that fear and confusion and rage from when he died.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, that's another one that could definitely fall into that category of sympathetic, because it was an accident. He didn't ask for that. He's not malicious in any way because of just wanting to be mean. It's a byproduct of the situation.
Well, and in the story, you find out that Victor's trying to take revenge on the people that did it to him, and I think he's trying to take revenge on their kids too. Like, he's trying to kill the last living descendants.
Right.
Which Samantha, we were talking about that the other day, and she made a good point. She's like, I get like cursing people and like killing descendants. She's like, but I think that's overkill. Just kill the people that killed you. Unless it was a situation where like they killed your kids and you. And I get, I guess that could be brought into play. Because there are characters
Right.
that I feel a little sympathetic toward, like in Dead Silence, Mary Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel sympathetic for her because they thought she killed some kid or something. And I think
Right.
the truth was that they actually, I don't think she actually did, or it was something weird. Darkness Falls is another one.
Yeah.
You
It's a
know,
good one.
that character got killed. They found out that she didn't actually take the kids, and she put a curse on the town. You know, what I once gave in kindness, I will forever take in revenge. And I'm like, I kind of agree with that. I know we could get into creature features, and that would be a whole other episode, but I don't necessarily think the xenomorphs are evil from Alien. Not the first. Not the
I'm gonna have
first.
to disagree with you on that one.
I'm not gonna say the first movie, at least, because I feel like it was just a creature that was trying to live to a degree. Obviously, the way that they are born and everything is not good for us. But I kind of looked at it like an animal that was trying to survive, in a sense. I
Right.
think when we get later into the other films, I think they start to show that the aliens are a little bit more intelligent, a little bit more organized.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with certain, like, animalistic creatures, because part of me is like, they're just animals.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a touchy subject. So,
Sure.
like the Predator. I don't know if the Predator is necessarily evil. It's a hunter.
Sure.
I don't think a predator, if a predator was out trying to hunt somebody, I don't think if it saw a little kid, I don't think it's going to curb stomp a little kid.
No.
They're just trying to hunt.
Yeah. Predator, I would definitely agree, is a lot more sympathetic
Yeah,
because of what they are. They are hunters.
Yeah.
And they've shown sympathy.
it's just like the puppets from Puppet Master. I don't think they're necessarily evil.
No.
So, there's only one evil doll that always pops to mind, and that's Chucky for me. It's always Chucky.
Sure.
So,
And I don't feel like he's sympathetic in any way, shape,
No.
or form. That would be a hard sell.
yeah, no, I don't think there's anything. There's certain characters that are just they're just evil. Chucky takes pride in killing people. He takes pride in everything. Annabelle's evil, the demon. Freddy Krueger's evil. It was funny because I was on the fence about Leatherface, but I was kind of thinking about the things that you said, and it's funny that you and I came to the same conclusion on Leatherface. But a lot of the slashers, I can't sympathize with them. Scream, I can't sympathize with Scream, even though I did hear a really interesting take on Scream 6, which I know it would piss a lot of people off, but somebody said, wouldn't it be crazy if they were keeping it a secret and Neve Campbell was actually in Scream 6 and she was the killer? And they did this whole big spiel about how, from the very beginning, Sidney orchestrated everything. And they gave reasons. I'd have to find the article again, but they gave reasons like she wanted Gail to get killed because she secretly had a crush on Dewey, and like all this like really just out there stuff about how Sidney wanted to be famous, was the original one that wanted to be famous and everything. If they did it right, it would be awesome. But I don't know.
Yeah, I would have to. I guess it depends on how they laid it out.
Yeah.
Because that one is almost, it's a hard sell for me.
Yeah. I gotta admit though,
I don't know.
I was fairly impressed by the trailer for Scream 6.
No, I'm excited as hell for it. But
seeing
the
Ghostface.
killer's got to be.
Yeah, seeing
don't know.
Ghostface with a gun in the convenience store, I'm like, I'm all game for this, because this one just seems like they need a killer that doesn't. All the other killers have the gimmick of, we're going to play by the rules. These are the new rules. I want a Ghostface that's just like, you can't forget where you came from, but who needs rules? I'm like, I'm all for it. If that's the angle that they do, and he's much more vicious and willing to break the rules. Even the scene with Gale in the beginning.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm like, hell yeah. And a lot of people are making a point. They really hope that Stu comes back. That Stu didn't actually die. But I
can't buy that because he had a television smashed on his head.
Now, if it was some relation to him, a lot of people are like trying to compare it in the scene in Gale's apartment when he wipes the knife, the way that he pulls and wipes the knife. You don't really see a lot of the other killers do that. But if you go back and you watch the first Scream, you watch Stu when he stabs Sidney's boyfriend and he does the knife the same way when he wipes his knife off. And like people are trying to make the connections, and I'm like, would I love to see Matthew Lillard come back? I like him as an actor, but if they couldn't make it work, but like you said, you you take a TV to the face and you get stabbed as many times as he got stabbed, don't think you're going to make it.
Yeah, no, that's a hard. Like I said, I'm all for it too because I love the man. I think he's awesome, and it would be awesome to see him back. But
all how they do
that's
it.
a tall order, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way, I'm excited. I hope if they do something crazy like one of those ideas, I hope that they do it the right way because I feel like there's a way that you could make it work. I don't know how, but I feel like there is a way that you could maybe figure it out. But you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I want it to be good. I want to be as engaged and entertained. I liked the last one. I know some people are a little muddy on it, but I enjoyed it. I guess in some part of me, I don't want to say I was disappointed in the reveal, but I am and I'm not because I applaud them for making me double guess myself the entire way because the whole time I was like, nah. It can't be, no, because they're saying it.
Yeah. Well, they're also bringing back the one girl from I think 4.
Oh, Kirby.
Yeah, they're bringing Kirby back, which I used to have a crush on the actress that plays her, just so you know.
Oh yeah.
Just so everybody knows. But a lot of people are saying Kirby might be the killer, and I'm just like, I hope they don't bring her back just to make her the killer because she's a good character. So.
Well, for that to work, they have to think in terms of. Don't just make these people killers just because it sounds good on paper. There better be good reasons for it. I mean, even to some degree, as much as I don't like the reveal of that character, but what was his name? The director in part 3 that turned out to be the killer.
Oh.
Spoilers.
Crap.
Fuck, whatever that. I don't give a shit what his
that
name
guy.
is. Anyway, the point being, at least there was motive. You can look at it and be like, a little muddy because, okay, he'd been orchestrating this the entire time. I still feel like it should have been Gale. It's just my opinion. But,
I could see,
at least the reasons kind of work.
I could see it now. Dewey has a secret child nobody knows about that thinks Gale should have died, and they're the killer.
Ooh, wouldn't that be some scandalous stuff?
That'd be hilarious.
I'll have to wait and see.
Still saying, if they were going to kill Dewey, they should have killed him in 4 when he was on top of his game. I'm just saying, I hate that they killed a washed-up Dewey. That kills me. Drives me crazy. It would have made so much more sense to kill him at the top of his game, and it would have hurt so much more.
Yeah.
So, but I don't have anything else. If you don't, I think this was a pretty good episode. It's interesting to think of characters that are sympathetic because not all bad guys are really bad guys.
No, that's true. And I feel like it's good to be able to examine and explore different facets of the characters that maybe other people aren't really thinking about or looking at them in those regards. So if we can kind of make people look at these characters a little bit differently, I'm all for it.
And we could do horror heroes who really shouldn't be heroes because I can think of a few that it's a wonder they're still around.
This is true.
So.
The way how Sydney survived so long is beyond me. But we won't go there.
Oh, man. But if you want to let the people know where to find us, go ahead.
Well, as you know, you can find us on Twitter at Horror Ramblings. Tell us your favorite sympathetic horror villain. Who do you think that we left out that we didn't touch on? I'm sure that there are others. I'm even thinking of a few just grazing past my head that I think probably could have been on the list, but maybe I'm not as well versed in their stories that I could have argued in their favor. So
just going to say Wolfman real quick because I just thought of that. So.
See, there you go, Wolfman. I guess even to some degree, Dracula could be somewhat sympathetic depending on the version of the story in which you look at it. Let's just say that.
Exactly.
Because I think some are not as sympathetic as others. If you want to say more than just a tweet, if you've got a list of characters we left off, then send us an email at horrorramblings@gmail.com. If you want to discuss horror with like-minded individuals, you can join our Facebook group and even join us in our Ramblers room on Discord. We can all have this long discussion and just lay out who else that we forgot, and we can just debate it all day long. Because you saw that we were starting to debate just a little bit by the end. See, that's what we need. We want to hear all these great ideas because we're missing people. I guarantee it. You can find us on Instagram to see an assortment of horror images. You can go to patreon.com/pencil and paper productions to check in in that lovely buck and get special content like, you know, the video that we posted. And if we see people are coming for that, maybe we can come up with extra content for you, and we'll come up with stuff. But we got to know that people are coming in, and I feel like I gave you a nice little lifeline to kind of come in and see something nice. So if you show us that you're going to come and chuck in that singular dollar, $1 a month. That's all we're asking. $1 a month. And we'll do extra content just for you. We even shout your name out on this podcast. What about that?
Hell yeah.
How about that? You can help the show grow by leaving a review on your favorite podcasting app. We are just about everywhere now. Apparently I'd missed a few, and I took care of that. So Pandora, iHeartRadio, Radio Public. They're blowing up our email for some reason. Good Pods. Everywhere. And you can rate us on those platforms. You can rate us on Apple, which seems to be the bigger thing, or Spotify. And you can even look at our weekly questions and polls and let us know what you think. We look at them. We're always looking for answers and whatnot. And we'll read that out on the show, too, if we ever see them. And finally, Lester has something.
I was just going to say, too, send us emails or Facebook messages about subjects you guys would like to hear us talk about, because... Yeah. You know, we do have ideas on things to talk about, but we would love to know what kind of content you guys would love for us to cover. If there's a movie that you would like us to talk about, even if it's just one movie, I mean, we could talk about anything. So I just wanted to put that out there just real quick.
No, I mean, it would have been nice to talk about Mithrigan, you know, when it came out, but it's on VOD, but I'm cheap, man. I don't want to pay $20 for a rental. I might as well pay the extra $5 and just buy it, but I don't want to do that either. I've heard it's good. I'm just being cheap. I can't help it. So if you want us to talk about Mithrigan or Scream, what are they calling it? It's like Scream-visic. I don't know how you kind of combine the V and the I to make it.
They took just the M of the Scream and they made it the V and the I for Scream 6. Because
wasn't the last one Scream 5?
Something like that.
Something like that. But no, they just said it was Scream, so whatever. If you want us to talk about any of those things, like you said, tell us what you want us to cover, and we'll do it. We'll gladly do it. And if you just want to keep up with any and all things in one singular spot, go to pencilpaperproductions.com/horror-ramblings. Links are in the show notes for your convenience.
And remember, guys, stay spooky out there.
This has been the Horror Ramblings podcast. Join us next time for even
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.